Good Moed and Shalom. Today, the midah of the day is Netzach Shebechesed. Anytime we talk about Netzach, we're talking about conquering, we're talking about victory. These are the midos, these are the attributes, the aspects of Chesed when we talk about Netzach Shebechesed that will have to do with bringing Chesed out into the external world. And when we talk about Netzach Shebechesed, one of the phraseologies that comes to mind is a phrase that's mentioned very early on in our tradition, Roidev Chesed, to be a Roidev Chesed, someone who pursues Chesed, makes it something that they actually pursue. And when we think about what it means to be a Roidev Chesed, that means that this is when we start to take Chesed to a whole new level and to try to create some kind of change in the world through Chesed. There are so many people who are in such great need that many of us can't imagine how we could possibly make a difference. It's overwhelming, but there are organizations and people themselves begin and start organizations with ideas that have the potential to become organizations that can change the world. Supporting these organizations is a kind of a Netzach Shebechesed. It's taking that chesed that we do and that we participate in and join and become part of and bring it to the world in a way that actually affects and really changes the world around us. That's Netzach Shebechesed on one level. To bring chesed to those who need it the most, to understand sometimes that chesed can be seen for us as a way to break down barriers. Breaking down barriers between people is one of the biggest mitzvahs that we could possibly do. Just the other day I had to take my car to the shop and the gas station, whatever, and the fellow that owns it is an Arab Israeli fellow, and there's always that sense of distance between the Jews and the Arabs here in this country, certainly. And there's a person I've been taking my car to for years. We've got a relationship, we have a connection. But this time, it was a very serious thing. I had to have my engine replaced, and it was going in deeper than perhaps I ever had before, than the regular brake job or whatever it is. So I went to the store, the fruit store right by the mechanic there, and I bought a package of pears. And I brought them back, and as they were there working on the car, I gave it to the guy who runs the shop there, the head Arab there, and I gave him a pear, and we enjoyed a pear together. I ate it, I made a bracha. He ate it. He didn't make a bracha, but he was talking to all the people around him, and showing how amazing it was that somebody came and instead of whatever the normal interaction was, this person came and gave something, and we enjoyed the pear together. And I can tell you that it really broke down some of the barriers, and this is the type of thing that chesed can do. The power of chesed to break down barriers between people is extremely powerful, and this is what it means to be a Roidev Chesed. So we can search and we can find ways to, so to speak, use chesed or embody chesed in a way which actually brings change. One last aspect that I want to speak about and bring up that we can work on practically is think about it from this perspective. Rabbi Akiva noticed a phenomenon in the world that, of course, he didn't discover. He wasn't the first one to discover it, but he was perhaps the first one to actually apply it in the way that he did, as a kind of a metaphor when he saw the water dripping on the stone, and he saw that if one drop doesn't make a difference, and the million drops couldn't make a difference either. And so even though we don't see it, even though we don't notice it, the small little chasadim, things that you would think could never possibly make a difference, things that you would think could never break down a barrier, to get ourselves into the habit of doing those tiny little chasadim, the little things, a little gift here, a little phone call there, a nice word, something that we can do to help another person, give a lift, and somebody who needs a lift, whatever it is. These are things that, so they're in our own eyes even, they seem to carry so little weight. It's just nothing. It's like so natural for us and so common for us to do these tiny little chasadim. But the truth is, just like Rabbi Akiva noticed, and that is in fact the reality of the universe we live in, every little drop, every tiny little drop makes a difference. And if every one of us was involved in just making sure that we were doing those tiny little chasadim that come our way day by day, minute by minute, that slowly but surely we can make the change, we can conquer the evil, we can overcome the challenges that face us and divide us through the tiny little acts of chesed, which are in fact Netzach shebechesed, those things that break down the barriers that eventually will change our world. Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach Hu Shebizaycha Gut Mayed.